Hey guys, Spartan here, welcome to a tier list for Loop Hero. Yes, this will be the perks in the game, which you get upon leveling up and, once you unlock leveling up. And we'll just be doing from S to F, because there's no E tiers, there's a straight drop from D to F. But yeah, I'll be taking into consideration two things with these. One for just beating the game, and another for if you're trying to go infinite. So, yeah, let's start with the neutral ones. This is Card Sharp. Card Sharp gives you a 10% chance to gain a duplicate of a card you play, and Card Sharp can proc on the cards it generates. It does not work on the gold cards, so you cannot swap or, gain extras of the Necromancer place, the Crypt, the Armory, basically any of those special ones that you start in your hand of the thing, because otherwise that would be a bit broken. So, this is C tier. It's not great, it doesn't greatly impact your run, as in it doesn't actually generate any power to your hero. It can duplicate really good cards like the Witch's Hut though, so yeah, not terrible, but not particularly good. This is Surveyor. Surveyor's effect is that whenever you pass by a tile other than road, then you gain half of your loop number HP per tile next to it. Now, this is one of the defaults, of course, so you have this unlocked from the start of the game, and basically, it's not very good. This is like D tier. It does heal you a little bit, and if you have wide stretches of... well, okay. If you are building stuff, like you have a bunch of road lanterns around, and you need healing, if you're trying to go infinite, I guess you could use it, if you're going for the road lantern method. But yeah, it's not particularly good even in that regard, because eventually you probably won't need healing if you're just going to kill everything really quickly. Second Thoughts. Second Thoughts is actually really good. So what it does is, you get 3 options of perk when you level up. And Second Thoughts basically is, you take this, and you get a choice of 3 different perks. And you can only get this once. After you've used that reroll, you will not encounter this again. This is A tier because it allows you to essentially fix your build. So, if you were offered, these 3, and you're like, actually no, if you were offered these 3, because this needs to be one of the options, you can choose this and you can gain something potentially better. Or any hero, because this is a neutral, of course. So, yep, really good. Supplies. Supplies is pretty bad. What this does is, your hero leaves 10% of any resources he's collected at the campfire while passing it. This is, in essence, insurance if you're going to go for extra loops and you're pretty sure that you cannot actually make it back to the campfire. Because, yeah, sure, 10% isn't a great deal, but it does stack up, and if you want to, keep your Orbs of Undying, and you're too stupid... basically, if you're pig-headed, and you don't know when to leave the mission because you're greedy, you can take this. Yeah. Blissful Ignorance. Blissful Ignorance is a B, because what it does is, it deals you a whole hand of Oblivion cards, which delete a card of the map in case you are not familiar with what Oblivion does. And every time you use an Oblivion card, you heal 10% of your max HP. So by default, I think the max hand size is 12 or something like that, so you can heal to full and extra. So this is B because it allows you to fix the map in case you are filled with goblin camps or bandit camps or I don't know, mountain peaks and you don't want to deal with harpies. It's pretty good, and it heals you. So it's basically like a clutch. You can pick this. So for a neutral trinket, not trinket, no, brains in the gutter from Darkest Dungeon. A neutral perk, it's pretty good. Shieldmaster, these next ones are going to be the warrior ones, so I'll be doing warrior, rogue, necromancer, and then the boss drops. Shieldmaster is 10% chance to stun a target for 1 second, I believe. So, Warrior's playstyle, he likes for the fights to be very long. So, this is pretty decent when it procs, but it doesn't always proc, so it's like a 10% chance. Warrior can outfit with countering a bunch with his high defense. But yeah, it'll... You know what? No, it's better than C. I'd rate it a B tier because it does help you in combat. It's pretty good against bosses like the, actually, it's pretty much good against all bosses because, you know, you only have one target, one character to stun, so yeah. This does peter off against multiple targets, of course. Somersault. 35% chance to counterattack when you evade. This is actually really good, but the only issue with this not being in S tier is that Warrior likes for his fights to be long because he gains extra strength based on the length of the fight. So yeah, you can end fights really quickly with this. That isn't a bad thing though. So, you dodge, you get some hits off, you maybe heal with Vampirism that he's got. It's not a bad deal at all. But yeah, it is of course based on your evasion stat, and Warrior cannot guarantee evasion with anything. Except, hey, I guess you can just get lucky or build your build around evasion. This is Skilled Armorer, I believe. This is, you gain 1 defense per loop, and this does work retroactively. This is a B. The only downside with this is 1 defense per loop isn't a great amount, but it does stack up over time. So like if you're on loop 20, that's like 20 defense, although that's pretty late into the run, and by then you probably need some better perks than this. But yeah, the fact that it works retroactively, and Warrior likes having high defense, it's pretty decent. Strong Aftertaste. This is an absolutely busted perk. So what this does is whenever you drink a potion, you gain plus 1.5 damage permanently for the rest of the run. Now, in theory, like at the end of the game, this is like, oh hey, I get 4 potions per visit by the campfire, so that's in essence plus 6 damage potentially if I drink all the potions. And you can only drink potions, of course, when your HP drops low enough. In practicality though, this has great synergy with another perk on the list, which makes it become broken. And you can get Witches' Huts, which is one of the reasons why Swamp Warrior works so good, is that you can place a Witch's Hut on a corner, and you can stop by it 3 times to get 3 potions, which will grant you 3 extra uses of this, which allows Warrior to scale incredibly well into the late game. As in, Warrior can go infinite without abusing, negating enemy spawns entirely. Or without, like, creating a bunch of, campsite required sides or something like that. Buckler. Buckler is whenever you counter, you gain 1.5 times your loop number in HP. Now, Warrior isn't super geared towards countering. I mean, Somersault synergizes with it, but other than that, Warrior does like having defense, and extra HP can be pretty good. But it's a C because it just isn't that good for really keeping you alive. Like, you would not rely on this perk to do that. There's better perks. Next up, Dominant Mass. You gain attack power equal to 20% of your defense. This is a solid B, because Warrior, of course, likes to have high defense. It helps him take less damage, so taking that and adding it to attack is pretty good. It also helps his attack scale, because his attack scaling in fights is percentage-based, so yep, pretty decent. There's just pretty much nothing else to say about it. It's a solid choice. Article of Protection. When you take Article of Protection and every time you pass by the campfire, you gain a Phantom Shield for 65% of your health that will be taken before your actual health gets hit. But the damage done to this Phantom health ignores defense. So this is a C tier. It would be D if it weren't for the fact that you can, like, clutch it out, and if you have the campfire upgrade that allows you to pass it before fighting the boss, which, like, allows you to refresh this and then fight the boss, is, you know, it would be worse. But as it is, it's pretty good. Getting a clutch 65% HP, like, barrier while you're trying to get home from a level up is one of the most clutch things you can do in the game, and for that it gets a C. Next up is Battering Ram. Battering Ram makes it so that when the hero first attacks, there is a 75% chance to stun an enemy, and this procs on all enemies immediately. So basically, 75% chance to stun an enemy against like all chances, meaning that you can stun one maybe, or you can stun like all maximum of like 5 if you get lucky. So it helps you in a fight, but it's not particularly useful as it's like luck based and only works once. It doesn't work in long fights very well like that, but it does work in every fight though. I give it a C. I am not ranking these like individually for like everything in C will be roughly equal. I won't go, oh, this is better than this. No, it's just C, B, A, S. That's pretty much it. Blade of Dawn. Blade of Dawn is upon a new day proccing, and after obtaining this, you gain the ability to attack all enemies at once for double damage. So basically, it becomes new day, you attack, and it does double damage to all enemies. That's basically it. This is good in ways because if you have vampirism, you can easily heal a bunch from it. It is bad in some ways because enemies can still dodge, and when enemies dodge this, like, it just feels so bad. Also, there are some enemies that are immune to AoE damage, but they're few and far between, so I guess I just won't count them in my judgment. But yeah, Blade of Dawn, it's also a pretty B skill. Like, if you have temporal towers or whatever they are, temporal beacons, and you have your days running by quicker, it's pretty decent. And once again, it can heal you a lot. But sometimes you just, like, and do New Day passes, and your next fight is against one slime on the road, so that can be pretty bad. Survivalist. I forget what this actually does. If your HP drops below 30%, your regeneration is doubled. This is regeneration is doubled, not all healing, meaning that vampirism doesn't work, passing the campfire doesn't work, meadow doesn't work, like, pretty much nothing actually works with this except for specifically regeneration. Warrior does have regeneration, but it is nowhere near strong enough to actually make this worth it, and also when he's only below 30% HP. That is too late to be worrying about that. You need actually like vampirism or potions or something like that to keep you alive. Right, that's it for the warrior quirks. We're going into rogue. So Fuss. Fuss is basically, for every enemy past the first enemy in combat, you take 7% less damage. This is great mitigation against multiple enemies, as in, if there's 3 enemies, you are taking 14% less damage until you kill a few of them. So, I'd say Fuss is actually A tier, just because it is, like, late game, you're going to be fighting tons of enemies at the same time. Taking less damage from those enemies when they hit you, even though Rogue is based on evasion, is pretty good. Shuttle the Forest, this is like 50% chance to spawn a rat wolf, or something like that. Hang on, let me check the stats. 75%. So 75% chance to start with a rat wolf as an ally. The best use of this rat wolf is the fact that it takes a bit of aggro off you. Like, enemies are well, actually, they're equal odds of attacking your allies and of you. And having allies as rogue isn't bad, because, you know, you don't want to get hit, you want some other chump to take the hits. But the rat wolf itself really doesn't do that much damage. It isn't that survivable. Like, it doesn't have that great survival chances, doesn't have great evasion or damage or health. So, it gets C, merely because it doesn't particularly do much. Against bosses, it kinda sucks. Smokescreen. When you lose 20% of your max HP in a fight, you dodge all attacks for the next 2 seconds. So this is actually A tier because it's really good against bosses. This will pretty much win you fights against certain like enemies like the Hunter. But yeah, it's a solid anyway, and it can proc multiple times per fight. So if you lose 20% of your max HP, you get hit a bit more, you lose another 20% of your max HP, this can proc again. The only issue this faces is of course the fact that Rogue has problems with the fact that if you evade too much, you get tired, so you will have a lot of trouble evading. If you are tired and take damage, however, and that procs this, then there's a good chance that you're going to, you know, completely avoid the next oncoming attacks so that you won't actually take any damage anyway. Old Scars. So, Old Scars gives you +1 max HP for every trophy you collect. Does not work retroactively for reference. So basically, you kill an enemy, you gain a, like, trophy from them, and you gain +1 max HP. So basically, you kill an enemy, you gain +1 max HP. There are other ways to get trophies, but they're few and far between, and usually are too little to even worry about. This is basically just a worse version of the crypt, like the gold card you can get. Except, of course, Rogue can get HP on his armor, though. So, the downside with this is it's, of course, a very low amount to actually get. Like, how many trophies do you get per loop? How many enemies do you kill per loop? Early game, about 20. Late game, you can get about maybe 40 kills per loop. So, yeah. But by that point of the game, you probably, like... This is just so bad in comparison to the crypt. And I get it, you don't want to actually run crypt as Rogue, you want to run armory, so you can gain the ability to use an amulet, which is what keeps Rogue alive in the short fights. But yeah, it could be so much better. It's still B tier because it is a good way for a Rogue to get health. This is Pickpocket. What did this do again? 50% chance to get a resource shard when countering. That is odd and not worth it. So there are a few perks that grant you resource things, which is basically long game. You're going to just gain like more, but usually if you're taking this, you'd be better off just surviving for longer so you can actually gain more resources in the long run instead of relying on countering to gain resource fragments. This is not worth it. This is D tier. Doesn't actually help you in the fights. Lethal weakness. So, for every 10% of your max HP you are losing, you have a 0.5% chance to do 10 times damage. So basically, it's very risky and unreliable, but it is something you can do, but it's just way too inconsistent to actually like help you. Like, sure, you can get lucky and score like 3 of them in a row by having like only 10% of your max HP up, or you could choose a better perk. Honestly, there are worse ones than this though, but yeah, this is usually not worth it. Picky is A tier. Picky is A tier because it gives you better items, and sure, you get 3 less options, but you're going to want high power over like a bunch of random, like, common swords or something like that. So yeah, take Picky, it's pretty good. I didn't actually explain it, but what it does is you get 3 less options at the campfire when you trade in your trophies for items, but they are high quality. So, yep, nothing is sacred. This says +3 HP for every kill. What this means is heal 3 HP on every kill. It is very tiny, and does very little, considering that Rogue has a bit of vampirism by default. This is honestly worse than Rogue's passive, which is very, very sad. Marauder, gain an extra trophy when you fight 3 or more enemies. Yeah, not worth it, because Rogue usually don't want to be fighting multiple enemies unless you have like Fuss or something already up, or you're running like stupid scythe build that you use at the late game for going infinite. But if you're going infinite, this doesn't matter in the slightest because you don't care about gear. Master of Fencing. Master of Fencing is B. It's a 10% chance to attack 2 enemies simultaneously, so in essence it's plus 10% damage, but it needs to be against 2 enemies or more. But yeah, it's pretty good. You know, there's no downside to it. It isn't as situational as it sounds. So yeah, it's one of the better Rogue perks. I say that when Rogue has 3 in A tier. Edge of Impossible. This is the first of the Necromancer perks, because Necromancer fights with summoning skeletons, and the effect of this one is 20% chance to summon 2 skeletons instead of 1 if you are summoning the final skeleton you could possibly summon. Basically, if my skeleton cap was 3, and I already had 2 up and I'd summon another one, 20% chance that I'd get 2 instead of 1, breaking the cap. This does not remove the cap though, so if one of those skeletons dies, I'm not going to summon another one until I'm back to 2 skeletons or something. So, this would be an A because of the huge tempo it generates, but it goes in B. Reason it goes in B is it can screw you over. Let's say my skeleton cap was 4. I summon 3 skeletons beside me, and I go for a 4th, and I get a 4th, but Edge of Impossible procs, and I get a 5th as well. Now, after the first 4 skeletons, your extras go into the little range behind you, meaning they're ranged units and they will attack enemies, and they actually really can't be hit by anything, so it's basically free damage. But the problem with this is, against like bosses or something, you want skeletons in the front line that can tank for you instead of actually getting hit yourself. So if you're stuck with a ranged skeleton that, granted, is generating bonus damage, but it makes you easier to be killed, and Necromancer, he really needs guard skeletons or else he's gonna die, unless you have certain other perks on this list. But yeah, it's good, but be mindful of your max skeleton stat. Counterattack. Counterattack is when you are hit directly, all of your skeletons have a 15% chance to perform a counterattack, or attack immediately. This is C. It's a pretty low chance of happening, and skeleton attacks like themselves don't deal a great amount of damage in one hit. Like skeletons, they can be pretty slow unless you're building for like skeleton level exclusively, in which case I guess this could work because you won't be getting quality, you'll be getting power. But yeah, there are better perks to take, especially for Necromancer who relies on his perks. Field Practice. Field Practice is a solid S tier. Field Practice is S tier because it gives you plus 0.25 skeleton level for each loop you complete. Does not work retroactively, sadly, which is why most of the time with Necromancer you are going to go through a run, and if you do not get this in your first set of perks offered, you reset. Just because this is such a powerful perk if you get it early on. If you can get this by like loop 2, you'll be getting a lot of skeleton power over time. This is one of the reasons why Necromancer can go infinite pretty well. It's because you don't need new items when your skeletons are getting stronger by the effect of this. It is nice, but yeah, you don't really need it against, well, if you set up the map right. This is preparation for a ceremony. On a new day, the first 2 skeletons you summon will be strengthened. Basically, what this means is they will be a skeleton warrior and or skeleton guard. So, yeah, it's not particularly good. If you have no summon quality, this is, this can be decent, but not really, because it's a day-related one. But yeah, usually you're going to want summon quality by default. You can't rely on this perk. It's just not that good. Out of Control. +1 max skeleton. There's really nothing to say about it, it's just good. Yeah. You run this because you want more skeletons. That's about it. Unseen Care, or Protection. It's one of the two. This is A tier. You gain plus 0.5 Phantom Shield, or whatever it is. It's like Energy Shield. It's the thing your amulet gives. For each skeleton you summon. Late game, you are going to be summoning a lot of skeletons because Necromancer's basic strategy is spam attack speed, spam skeletons. You're going to get a lot of these. You're going to summon a lot of skeletons, you're going to get a lot of extra amulet shield, which is really good because Necromancer likes to get his skeletons out before he takes a whole bunch of damage. So yeah, really good. Residual Heat. When a skeleton dies, you heal 3 times loop HP. That is actually a lot better than it may sound on paper, because a lot of skeletons die, and if you're summoning skeleton guards, they need to die before you do, so getting healed when they die is actually pretty good. And if your skeletons aren't dying, they're dealing damage. So yeah, there's a reason why this is much better than this. Horde. When you pass the campfire, you gain 3 strengthened skeletons to join you until they die. I think they have extra stats. No, they do not have extra stats. Well, in any case, you basically gain a guard and 2 warriors when you pass the campfire. This can be useful if you have the thing that lets you rest at the campfire before fighting the boss, but it's not particularly good because, well, it doesn't remove the cap on skeleton numbers, so you get the 3 skeletons, and most likely you won't be able to summon any more. Then you just, like, punch the enemies. It's fine, I guess, but you need to have that one upgrade. Ambitions of the Dead is pretty much the same in terms of, like, usefulness. So your skeletons, when a skeleton kills an enemy, it fully heals and gains a 10% HP and damage buff for the rest of the fight. So basically, you fight off some grunts, and your skeleton, like, gets a full heal. This only really works great if your skeletons are taking bits of damage, like maybe a guard gets lucky and kills an enemy and gets a full heal. That's pretty good, but most of the time, it very rarely actually matters. It's nice, but it's not reliable. I mean, look at the other Necromancer perks. They're so good. Speaking of really good perks, laying down one's life. When your hero is attacked directly, your skeletons, like, the damage is split between all other skeletons you have. This is also S tier, because this is just an incredible way of damage mitigation. Of course, Necromancer doesn't want to die, he's the one summoning the damn skeletons. Like, granted, Skeleton Guard is going to be hit more than anything else, but if you roll unlucky and you summon like 3 warriors, and you're fighting a boss, and the boss decides, you know what, I'm going to exclusively attack the Necromancer, then you will die because your skeletons aren't taking damage and you're taking the full force of this boss. But laying down one's life allows your skeletons to not only help you take damage off you, but they die, so you can re-roll and try to summon better skeletons, like Skeleton Guards or something like that. So yeah, laying down one's life, especially with residual heat, is one of the main reasons, along with pretty much all of the other Necromancer perks, why Necromancer can go infinite pretty easily. All the next perks on the list are the boss drops, so you kill a boss and you get a choice of a perk to unlock. 5 possible perks per one of the 3. You do not get a specific perk unlocked from the 4th boss, you get a choice of one of the ones you just haven't unlocked from any boss. So, Deep Pockets. Maximum resource limit per expedition increased by 50% for the one you're currently on. This does very little, like... Okay, you know what, no, this is F tier because... Yeah, it does help you gather resources in the earlier chapters, but it only works after you've actually, like, beaten the boss and you have inventory stacking up. This essentially dilutes the pool if you pick this up, and you will not be able to gain, like, imagine you're playing Necro with this on. Do you want this to appear in your perk selection, or do you want some of these to appear in your perk selection? You definitely want these, and not this, and considering this is a non-lock, that's pretty bad. Now here I'd like to point out that before a certain patch beforehand, there was no way to actually take perks out of your perk deck. Like, if you unlocked a perk, it's just constantly there. So, if you had chosen this as one of your perks early on, like, you didn't know how good some of the other ones are, or how bad some of the ones are, then you're just stuck with this. This will be in your pool forever for all characters, because these are all neutral. So yeah, bad. Axis tilt. Days pass 15% faster. This is bad. There are some good things about passing days, but most of them are not worthwhile. Like, you can use Temporal Beacon if you really want to pass days faster, and that does it more effectively than this. And this is a perk. You need to waste your valuable levels to get this. It's garbage, don't use it. Omicron's Technique. Omicron's Technique, if you're going for infinite, it's not very useful. If you're just trying to beat the game, it's actually really good. You gain 1 resurrection, and it is used up once you use that resurrection. The perk does not respawn. So basically, you fight a boss, you get very close to killing it, and then you die. And then you realize you have Omicron's Technique, and you revive and you beat the boss. That's pretty much everything that this does. Meaning, it is a good perk to have. It's mostly a backup plan, though. It's like the one-up from Binding of Isaac. Yeah, it doesn't actually improve your power instantly, but it can get you out of a bad situation. Like, a lot of the time you won't need this, but, you know, sometimes it helps. Don't scroll. Awakened Fragment. Chance to get a whole resource sphere instead of just a chunk. That would be really good if it weren't for the fact that it's a 2%. 2%. Like, the only use this has is if you're going infinite. This makes it so that you get, I don't know, a bit faster in terms of going infinite. But if you're going infinite, that doesn't really matter. It is strictly a positive effect, though, so yeah, it does benefit you. Treasure Hunter. That is the name of this, right? 5% chance that upon killing an enemy, it spawns a treasure chest. This is not good for Rogue, because Rogue doesn't actually gain gear from treasure chests. It is good for pretty much everyone else, though. These chests can be mimics, however, but I don't think that's really bad enough to count as a true negative. This is of course it's luck-based, but when it goes off in the later chapters, like you're fighting maybe Vampire plus Ghoul Village, you kill 5 enemies and one of them drops a treasure chest. And then that gives you like 5 items because of how treasure chests work in the late game. So it's a B. It can give you some very good gear, and also if you're going for resources, then the items you get will be scrapped for metal if you fill up your inventory. So in essence, it also grants you resources. So it does better than this anyway, as long as, well, you have the alchemy tent up. But yeah, it's pretty decent. I could excuse you if you wanted to put this higher, just because it does so much. But yeah, it is a boss unlock though, so there's a good chance that you won't even get that for a while. Boss 2-drops. Gift of Blood. So at a chance equal to either the Warrior's Vampirism, the Rogue's crit chance, or just 20% for the Necromancer, you can, like for his skeletons on attack, you call a Blood Lightning on the enemy. What does the Blood Lightning do? Literally nothing. It is supposed to do something, but I guess the devs kind of forgot about it or something, so yeah. Post-mortem Toil. 30% chance to get a random resource chunk upon killing an enemy. I mean, it's basically like it's basically like Awakened Fragment, except it's more consistent. So, I guess it does benefit you for something. Also, it's a random one, so it can give you hard to get ones if you are lucky, aka not me. So yeah, it does something. Skilled Architect. Gain 8 times loop experience upon building anything. So basically, you get this and you level up faster for the rest of the run. If you're not running like towns or suburbs or whatever it is that you have, then this is pretty much the only way to gain experience other than, well, just... Actually, no, it's in tandem with killing enemies. So, yeah, it's... I guess it works. Maybe B, because it's not bad. It is a way to gain experience. The only problem is it costs experience to get it, so that's kind of a, yeah, if you get this early, it's pretty good. If you get it late, then it does pretty much nothing. God's Eye. 25% chance for an enemy to have 1 less perk. Does not work on bosses. Alright, there's so much wrong with this. Now that sounds really good, like taking off abilities from creatures, but the thing is, in the late game, I'm specifically talking like Chapter 4, most of the enemies actually gain a negative perk to balance out the power of the fact that you're going to have to, well, deal with everything in Chapter 4. So, if you get this on Chapter 4 when the game is really the hardest, this does actually detrimental effects to you. Also, it doesn't work on bosses, and it's a luck-based ability, so, yeah. That's bad. Shield of Faith. Whenever you kill an enemy, you gain a stained glass window, which has a 20% chance to absorb 1 hit for you, and then it gets broken. And this 20% chance works until it dies. So, if you're fighting a whole bunch of enemies or minions or something like that, then I guess it does something, but it's 1 hit. And it's only 20% chance to absorb a hit. Like, why? This could have been such a good one, but it's D tier because it does stop a hit from you. Like, if you're fighting Flesh Golem, then this could help you not die, but yeah, it's not great. You know, actually, the more I think about it, I'm going to put Card Sharp up in B tier, because I did say I was going to count going infinite for usefulness, and Card Sharp is actually pretty good when going infinite, because it allows you to do the Road Lantern trick faster. So yeah, a bit of an errata on that rating. Their Own Peril. 60% chance that when you would be hit by a ranged attack, it instead hits a random enemy. Ranged attacks count as, like, if you have enemies in the sidebar on the right, and it's... well, granted, it turns them into more power for you than the enemy, but most of the time you just don't want to deal with ranged units at all, and it's kind of risky, and obviously you of course have to get this perk first. It's C because what it does is good, it is strictly beneficial for you, like, and turns something that is full negative into mostly positive. But yeah, it's very risky. Bottomless Bottle. What this does is it gives you a 40% chance of gaining a potion back after you use a potion. In theory, this is 40% more potions, but in practicality it's more so like 55% more potions, because the potions you gain back can proc Bottomless Bottle. Now, you combine this with something like Strong Aftertaste, and it's just broken. Like, Warrior can go AFK full infinite with just Bottomless Bottle and Strong Aftertaste because his damage scales up so well. Like, you do this right, you play a bunch of swamps so Warrior hurts himself with his own vampirism, so he chugs potions to heal himself, and just keep going with Strong Aftertaste, and like, I don't know, plop down a crypt or something so he gains HP as well. Warrior will easily keep himself alive and allow you to AFK infinitely, as long as you don't get hit by like a, I don't know, awakened one, or whatever it is. Blind Rage. When you fall below 20% HP, your hero attacks at double speed for 4 attacks. It's probably too late at that point, but I mean, it is fast attacks. Fast attacks are good in this game. Honestly, I haven't experimented with this one too much. I played with it a little in the original, like, early days, back before the perk thing was existing. It was okay. There may be a strategy with this, but yeah, fast attacks don't really matter, like, compared to how fast you get when using forests or thickets. Speaking of fast attacks, lightning fast. 20% chance to attack 3 times for half damage. So, the positive of this is you are dealing 150% damage. The negative of this is that it's 3 attacks, so your character tires faster. So, overall, this is positive. This is much better with Necromancer because it works for his skeletons instead of you. And it is bad against certain enemies like the Flesh Golem that have like a riposting or whatever it's called. Overall, it actually isn't that bad though. It works constantly, and it is pretty much almost always a positive effect, but yeah, still not that great. Hunter's Mark. Upon killing an enemy, your next attack deals 2 times your loop in extra damage. This is actually really bad. That's a tiny amount of damage. Like, so at loop 2, you'd be getting roughly weapons that deal 7 to 10 damage as, like, Warrior, basically. And so you'd kill an enemy and you gain 4 extra damage. So that sounds great, maybe, but it requires you to kill an enemy and it only works for 1 hit. That's just trash. You'd be better off getting, like, anything that increases damage and not this. This is like... You know what? No, F tier, because it's way too inconsistent. And this is not a perk, really. This is the thing that you, if you empty the perk pool and you pick, like, Second Thoughts as one of your last options or something like that, because it says gain a choice of 3, this shows up and it allows you to just fight a mini-boss, or like a secret boss. So, it actually doesn't benefit you at all. It just lets you fight a special thing. So, yeah, that's it. And that's the video. I hope you enjoyed. if you have any thoughts on if you wanted to change anything with this list, or maybe you place Treasure Hunter in F because you can, like, spawn a Mimic and then kill yourself with it because it scored a lucky crit on you. Tell me in the comments. But yeah, I don't know if I'll actually ever do any more Loop Hero content. I could do one for the cards, which is... It's potential I could do. But yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video I make. Till then, goodbye.